Hi everybody, welcome back to the Claremont Classic Garage. Today we're going to work a little bit more on the Oliver 550. We got our oil filter and I got a jug of the cheapest 1540 diesel oil I could find. So the whole idea with this is we're going to drain the oil. I'm going to let it sit overnight draining, and then we're going to put fresh oil and a fresh filter in it and run the thing for a little bit and see if it looks any better, because there was a little bit of blue haze coming out the tailpipe, and the fuel here I can tell is pretty, or the oil is pretty diluted with fuel. So number one, I hope it hasn't done any damage to the engine running like that. But from speaking to the guy I got it off, I don't think it ran too long like that. So fingers crossed, we'll see what happens. And if we like what we see once we get it going again, then I'm going to go ahead. We're going to get this loader off of the thing, and we're going to give it a complete fluid change and service from front to back and go from there. Now where's the flash? So here we are underneath here. The first thing I see is the bottom of the oil pan is all caved in and it leaks like hell. So that'll be something we do another time. No, you know what? Look at that. The way that is round around there. I wonder if that's supposed to be like that. Hard to say. We'll figure it out. And I see the PTO clutches in there, and there's supposed to be a cover bolted on here. Which is no longer there. Anyway, one thing at a time. We're going to get this stuff all sorted out. But first, we got to get the oil out of it. Look at that oil, how it runs like water. Look at it coming out of there. That's more fuel than oil in that thing. So we're doing a good thing by getting it out of there. Now we'll get the filter off. I don't think there should be anything in this. But we should put a pan under it just in case. Famous last words. Now this is kind of a weird filter. You'll see what I mean when I get it off. That's why I couldn't find one really locally. Look at that, how it threads in. And this one is heavy, so it is plugged with guck, because the new one doesn't hardly weigh anything at all. You can see here the tiny little standpipe, and it's just got a tiny little orifice in the end. So this is not a full flow filter. It's a bypass filter, like on the Fords. So that means you have to take extra care of minding your oil and keeping everything clean. So you can see how this thing works. There's not even a hole in it. When you screw it on, the standpipe there burrows its way, and it's just literally a tin packed with cellulose. And the oil, it comes in. There should be a little passage. Yeah, right there. You can see the little passage. That's the inlet to the filter. And it just gets pumped through this cellulose and out into it exits via the standpipe into the engine. Well, I've finished draining it, and I don't know if you can really get a perception of this, but this is supposed to be like diesel oil, and it's more like dirty Varsol. Look at that, because of all the fuel in it. So I'm glad we got that out. And I did come to realization, I've put the old filter back on, because now that I know this is just a bypass filter, it's not a full flow filter. I don't really feel like wasting this brand new filter that was $27 plus tax, just so I can run this for a little bit with cheap oil in it to get it kind of cleaned out and see where we're at. Once I've gotten it kind of warm a couple of times and maybe put a little bit of load on it, we're going to go ahead then and I'll put the new filter on and put some good oil in it, and that should be good. But that's the plan for now. We'll see how that works out. I'm going to go and put the oil in it now. I also can't wait to get rid of this. It's flexible electrical conduit. I want to get rid of this and get the proper vertical exhaust stack on like it's supposed to have, because it gets in the way of everything. So here you can see there's the oil filler, and our dipstick is built right into it. That's why I couldn't find the dipstick before. So we'll get this oil in here, and crank it up and see what happens. Because of our old Jungle Jim loader here, we'll just use 2 transmission funnels to get the oil down in it. It'll be slow, but it'll go. Let's make sure she's full. It might actually be a little over full, but we'll see. For a big engine, it doesn't have a ton of oil capacity, but we'll see. Yeah, so it's up over the high mark, but we still haven't filled the filter yet, so we should be okay. So now I'm going to crank it up, and we'll have a look at the tailpipe. There we go. And it might take me a few hits on the starter. It goes click, click, click. It's either got a bad connection somewhere, or the solenoid has seen better days. We'll figure that out later. Not a major concern at this point. Oh, and then I'll tell you what, the next job is getting rid of the old Jungle Jim loader here, because this thing drives me insane. All right, give it a little throttle. I better make sure I got the fuel open. Yeah, the fuel's open. Okay, let's see what's going to happen here. Clutch in, neutral. Hopefully that'll clear up in a sec. It's a diesel and it's cold. There we go. She's pretty cleaned up. There is still just a little bit of haze, just a slight blue tinge coming out of it. But, I mean, it hasn't really done any work. It's just sitting in here running, right? So I would like to get it outside and get some real heat into it, you know, let it like actually do something. But before we do that, we have to get the loader off. That's going to be our next little job. Let's get started on that. So I came out this morning to this. Basically, the contents of the fuel tank is now in the oil pan. The oil's full of diesel fuel, and it was actually coming out, I guess, from the rear main seal or something. It's coming out somewhere out the back and dripping down. So we have a dribbly injector on this thing. One of them is no good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull all the energy cells out of it on the other side and see if we can figure out what cylinder it is. Well, that really didn't show us anything. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the other side. I'm going to have to pull the injectors out of it. I got the exhaust manifold out of the way. So now we're going to go and clean up this area here. We don't want a bunch of junk going in the engine. And I've got a lot easier shot here at getting these injectors out. One by one, we're going to pull them out. All right, that was a bit of work, getting all those lines and return lines and everything off. Everything was stuck and seized, and you don't want to twist them off because, well, you just don't want to twist them off. There's something I noticed. We've got a Welch plug in the cylinder head leak in there. We'll have to fix that. Now, I've got the nuts off the injectors, but these things are stuck in there good. So what we're going to try and do is kind of wedge them out, right? We got these 2 punches. We're going to drive down in there and see if that'll pop these babies out. Yep, I think it's working. I think she's moving. Yep, here it comes. Now I gotta watch though that, see, the punch is starting to get wedged between the stud and the injector, which isn't helping us. I kind of think now if I get these 2 punches out of here, the injector will just pull right out. We'll find out. Well, there's one out. What a battle that was. We'll see if we can get the rest of them out. That one's pretty wet. You notice that? See how wet that is? We'll see if the other ones look like that.
James Cameron. I just did like the premiere or something.
Number 3, you see, dry as a bone. Number 2 is a little damp, and you can see it's got a little wet spot on the end of it there. This is number 1, and it's pretty sooted up. You can remember this is the one that had the exhaust valve kind of hanging open. So anyway, we're going to go ahead. First thing, I'm going to get the outside of these things all cleaned up. And then I guess we're going to go to the bench and see if we can take them apart and find out what's going on with them. Here's another thing we're going to fix while we're at it. This is the exhaust manifold. It all came off in one piece, but there's a lot of bolts and stuff we got to get off of here so that later down the road they're free, right? These bolts have been in there a long time. And we're going to change this, so from this piece of electrical conduit that goes underneath that I keep burning my arm on, we're going to loosen this off, spin it up the other way, and get some kind of a vertical exhaust on it, at least for now, until we can get the right stuff. The outlet for the muffler looks like it's rotted off, but we could probably weld something back onto it, and then come up with some kind of an elbow and a pipe that goes up. I'm going to measure it. This looks like a piece of electrical conduit or something, but you never know. We'll see what it is. That's weird. You know, I got that all cleaned up, and there's no sign of anything wet in there at all. And that's a brass plug, so it's not like it's rotted out, you know. That's really, really weird. I'm going to have to think about that one. I may see if I can somehow... see, it's got the... oh, no. You know what? I may be able to pressure test this. Let's pressure test it and see if we can make it leak. Yeah, you can definitely see it right there. That plug is leaking. Not much, but it's leaking. I can see wet around it. So I'll have to get some. They're 1 inch... 1 inch plugs. And you can see there we've got a little problem around that rad hose. I fixed the leak there. I got in there and gave that a couple of good whacks with a flat, with a blunt-ended 1 inch punch to flatten that baby down and get it squashed back out against the bore. And I've got this thing pressurized. So we're just going to let it sit for a bit and see if we get any coolant back up in that plug. I found this guy in here was leaking too. I was so happy I fixed this one, and then I remembered there was 3 more under the valve cover. So I pulled it off, and this one here was leaking. So I gave it a smack with my blunt end punch, and it's okay now too. And she's still holding pressure. So I'd say we got this nipped in the bud. No new parts required. I like that. Well, now that I got everything apart there, I'm going to put a fork in this one. In the next one, we're going to go over to the bench, and we're going to work on the fuel injectors, and we're going to get everything cleaned up, put the whole fuel system back together, all cleaned, and we'll have to change the oil again. Oh, brother. And it turns out I'm going to have to drain the coolant out of it. There's a couple of bolts I got to remove that go into the water. So I'm going to drain the coolant, and that'll give us the opportunity to put fresh coolant in it when we're done. But anyway, that'll all be in the next one. That's it for this one. I'm going to take off now. I'd like to thank you for tuning in. Hope you'll come back and see us again. And until then, I'm Kevin saying so long from the Claremont Classic Garage.